All right, everyone, welcome back to Scareticulous. So, I'm going to give you my thoughts on Happy Gilmore 2 that just came out recently on Netflix. Yes, it's a direct-to-streaming release, and not a lot of people were talking about it in the months leading up to its release. I'm not exactly sure why that is. I mean, there hasn't really been a very prevalent comedy scene in movies for a long time now, it seems. A lot of raunchy comedies, even rom-coms have kind of gone by the wayside in recent years. I think we're kind of favoring more like horror movies, action movies, comic book films, stuff like that. Really like big hitter type of movies. So comedies, they're not seen as a priority. So when this surfaced, I think a lot of people were kind of like, what's this? Why do we care about this, right? Now, me, on the other hand, I was extremely hyped because I'm a huge Happy Gilmore fan. I liked a lot of Adam Sandler's films, but I really do think Happy Gilmore is the crown jewel of the Adam Sandler filmography. It's better than Big Daddy, it's better than Billy Madison, it's better than Little Nicky, it's better than all of them. It is the best one, in my humble opinion. So when I heard that they were making a sequel, I was completely overjoyed, and I was also worried at the same time because obviously sequels are something that never usually goes right, especially 30 years later. It's really hard to do a sequel that's good, much less a sequel that takes place 30 years later. So that makes you wonder, is this movie any good? Did it even have a shot in hell of being good? And the answer to that is a tentative yes. It is a good movie, but I have a lot of problems with it. So here's what I think of it. You know, like when you go to a buffet and there's just so much great stuff. Like, oh my God, this is a smorgasbord of just deliciousness, right? And you eat each thing and it's like, oh, that's pretty good. You eat the next thing, that's pretty good too. Pretty good here, pretty good here. This is not so good. This is all right. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like a hodgepodge of, and there's just so much stuff, right? And you're not going to be able to eat all of it, right? There's just too much. And that's how I felt about this movie. It's just overstuffed to the brim with jokes, with cameos. It's just kind of like, there's so many characters. And I feel like if we cut the character roster in like half for this movie, I think everyone would have had more time to breathe. Characters would have had more time to breathe. Happy Gilmore's character, I was a little unhappy with the fact that they decided, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but they did one major thing in the beginning of this movie that it basically, it sets off Adam Sandler's character in a new direction that gives him a struggle to deal with, and that's what sets him forward onto this new path of getting back to playing golf, because he's been out of the golf game for however many years. And we see like the effects of what this is doing to him in his life and how he's going to try to fix things. He also has a family. He's got a daughter and like 4 sons, and his daughter's going to college, and he has to figure out a way to pay for his daughter's college education. And so he figures out, okay, I'll go back to playing golf. And so that's one of the motivations. But there's another big spoilery thing I'm not going to say that it kind of makes this journey kind of difficult for him. So when they did that, I don't know. To me, I understand why they did it. And, bravo to them for actually taking a chance and doing something that's bold, and setting this story in a certain direction. I just don't know if it was necessary. Usually when you have like in the first Happy Gilmore movie, when Chubbs died, that was something where, he was the mentor character to Happy. He came in, he taught Happy how to do his short game and taught him a lot of philosophical stuff about, finding his happy place and kind of finding an equilibrium with his golf game, because he had the talent, he had the drive, no pun intended. And that allowed him to kind of get motivated to playing golf just so he could, it was as a means to an end. But then it was really Chubbs that instilled in him, kind of really sharpened his skills and made him out to be like a really great golfer in the end. And once, he fulfilled his role, a sacrifice was made and Chubbs was no more, right? And that did give him a downward trajectory for a little bit. But, you know, when he remembered the lessons that Chubbs taught him and he understood, like, this is what I have to do. And sometimes a character in a movie or story has to grow into their own. And so you have to kind of cut the cord sometimes, so that parental figure or that mentor has to be, you know, kind of cut loose, right? And so Chubbs' death was more than just like a punchline. It was something to kind of motivate Happy. It's like, okay, well, now you're on your own. You know, you have to get your, you know, sprout your wings and fly. You know, you can't just, you know what I mean? It's like a classic story of, you know, a very rough around the edges, talented individual that needs motivation to kind of take off and fly, right? Because they do have that mentor character. It's kind of like, you know, the movie Dumbo. I know it's kind of silly, but, you know, he had the talent, obviously, to fly, right? But the one thing that was kind of holding him back was he thought he needed this magic feather to kind of take off, right? And then in the very end, his friend, you know, the mouse, I think Timothy was his name, he tells him, he's like, look, you don't need the feather. You know, you have the talent all along. You know, that's just something you thought you needed, right? It's just like a joke, though. So take, you know, just sprout your ears and fly. And that's very inspiring, I think, for a lot of stories where, you know, you have a character that does have a lot of flaws. They are rough around the edges, but they do have a lot of talent. And it just takes like small tweaks sometimes just to kind of set them on the right path and for them to be a success. And I think that's very inspiring. Now, were they able to do something similar with this movie? I don't think so. Because here's the thing. You can only do the story of Happy Gilmore one time. To do it a second time, you basically have to, like, essentially take away aspects of Happy Gilmore that were, you know, that made him who he was. And I feel like this movie is more like Adam Sandler in the role and less Happy Gilmore. Because Happy Gilmore was just kind of like a, you know, he was like a dumb but well-meaning kind of guy. And, you know, he wasn't afraid to look like a fool. He also had violent tendencies as a young guy. Now he's like an older dude. He's scruffier. He's slower. You know, and he just feels more like just Adam Sandler just playing. He's like, now it's Adam Sandler in the role. It doesn't feel like we're watching Happy Gilmore, you know? And I don't want to hear any argument like, well, it's fucking Adam Sandler. What do you expect? Listen, there was a marked difference between Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. They were extremely different characters. He is able to put nuance into his roles. And Happy Gilmore was a kind of a wisecracking, you know, kind of sarcastic, like, you know, like blow it out your ass. Like he had no patience for anyone. He was extremely snarky. And I love that about his character. And he just wanted everything his way. He was very stubborn. He didn't care. He was too dumb to listen. But then when he finally did listen, he was able to really sharpen and hone who he was as a character. And so I really appreciated that. Now, I don't feel that same vibe from Happy Gilmore in this movie. It feels more like it's just Adam Sandler acting. So I wasn't that satisfied with that. Now, I will say that the movie is entertaining, but, you know, and they do have like a lot of jokes. Like it is a funny movie. I did find myself, you know, chuckling here and there. There were some laughs that made me, but then sometimes I was like wondering, like, why is this happening in the movie? Some parts I felt like were extremely like bizarre. Like they have like a weird science fiction element to this movie at one point, and it just felt weird and out of place. It's like we're watching Happy Gilmore, you know, we're not watching Click or something like that. Happy Gilmore is a very grounded film where, you know, everyone is pretty normal except for Happy Gilmore. He's kind of a douche, and then you have like these little side characters that act like weirdos, you know, like the Mista lady, and then you have the guy in the you know, the old folks home, Ben Stiller's character, who does make a comeback in this movie that's pretty decent. Although, again, nothing can match that initial appearance by him in the first movie. This more feels like them trying to kind of complete the arc from that movie, like bring him back so they can kind of do something with him. But again, there's nothing memorable really about his new appearance in this movie. Like, it doesn't do anything that outrageous that makes you go, oh, that's great, you know, or that's a great line. In fact, I can't even really think of any like great outstanding lines in this movie. The great thing about the original was that it was so quotable there were so many great lines like, you eat pieces of shit for breakfast, and gold jacket, green jacket, who gives a shit? I mean, there's so many great lines in that movie. You're gonna die, clown, the Mista lady. And then Ben Stiller's character is like, your eyes hurt? Well, now your back's gonna hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty. I mean, these are great classic lines that are so clever and like kind of, they have room to breathe in that first movie. This movie doesn't allow room for any joke to breathe. The only consistently funny joke in the movie is Adam Sandler drinking out of various objects in the movie. And that is something they literally like, that is not, how they say like jokes come in threes, or like the best jokes, sometimes they come in threes, and that's how you do like a joke in like a recurring joke in a movie or a show or something. Usually it comes in threes. Well, this movie, Adam Sandler has like a drinking problem, right? So what he does is he pulls out a flask, except the flask in this movie is like made out of like ordinary objects. Like when he's working at the grocery store, he pulls out a cucumber and he opens up like the cucumber and he starts drinking out of it. There's all the kinds of objects that he just pulls out and he just starts drinking out of, because he just has alcohol in all these little tiny flasks everywhere. And it's a joke that they milk for like maybe like 10 times. Like, it's ridiculous how many times they milk that joke, and yet it is pretty funny every time. So I was kind of wondering, like, man, they're really milking that joke. But hey, I mean, at least it's getting laughs, so I'm not really complaining. But there's certain jokes are just not allowed time to breathe. Certain characters, I feel like, act bizarrely at times, which I know it's Happy Gilmore, but like, sometimes it just feels like, okay, this doesn't feel realistic, like a lot of times like in the first movie, it felt like Happy Gilmore is coming into like a realistic environment, and then he just acts, off the wall, right? He's the centerpiece of the scene, like, just like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, he's just totally acting inappropriate for that environment. Now it feels like everyone's acting silly. Like, everyone in the movie acts ridiculous. And Happy Gilmore, strangely, doesn't even act the strangest out of everyone there. It used to be like the point in the first movie that Happy Gilmore had all these behavioral problems, and that's what led to a lot of issues. Like, that was his struggle in the movie, was getting over himself, getting over his attitude, learning to kind of, not take apart who he is, but just to tone it down a little bit and get some professionalism in there so he could achieve, his dreams and be what he was meant to be. This movie, it feels like he doesn't have anywhere to go. It's almost like he's just there. Like, he's just there because he needs to get the money, because his daughter needs it for school, and, he just needs to do it. It's not like he's doing it for himself anymore, and that makes for a weak character struggle. So I was a little disappointed in that. Also, again, with the sci-fi element I hinted to, there's something in the movie that gets revealed, and I'm not going to say what it is, but no spoilers, but it's something that trivializes Happy Gilmore's gift and talent as a golfer. And I don't like that. The thing that's so special about Happy Gilmore in that first movie is he's capable of doing the long drive, right? He's able to hit that ball and he goes really, really far with the ball. Now, that's a very important gift that he's able to hone in that movie. And it's not enough to take him to the end. It's enough to kind of, put him there, right? Half of, success is just being able to show up. So once he shows up with that talent, it's like, well, now you have to figure out, how are you going to fit into this golfing atmosphere? How are you going to perfect your putting game? How are you going to perfect all these imperfections about yourself in order to, because you got the talent, you have that central thing that's going to propel you to success, but you need to tweak it. You need to refine it. In this movie, it's like, well, the only reason Happy Gilmore's like that is because of this, like, thing that, yeah, I'm not going to say what it is. And then they try to like make other golfers like have that same thing, like enemy golfers. And I just don't like that. It's just like, it makes it feel weird. Like, now Happy Gilmore is like some kind of like freak of nature or something that's biologically like designed to be able to hit. Like, I just thought he was able to hit that ball just because he just had a gift. And you don't need to explain that. You don't need to explain how Happy Gilmore has his gift. He just is able to hit that ball really fast, really far. And that's all we need to know. And that nobody else can really do that. That's all we need. He has a ton of other imperfections that make it so he has a struggle after this, right? So we don't need to like one up him and be like, well, now all these other golfers can do the same thing. It's like, now you're just making it, you're trivializing Happy Gilmore's talent. And I understand maybe like, okay, there is something in the art world, you know, where sometimes you feel like you're really successful, you're really talented, and then you meet people who are much more talented than you, and you feel like, whoa, I thought I was good. These people are really good. And that's fine. That could have been something interesting for Happy Gilmore to come up against, someone who's legitimately just a better golfer. But instead, they make it this weird science fiction thing, and I don't like it. It totally like sets off the realism from that first movie, and it just makes it into like a cartoon now. And I don't like that. Here's another thing I don't like. Again, the movie's funny. Like, I enjoyed myself. It's entertaining and all that, but there's some things I feel like just hold back the movie from being legitimately good. Again, overstuffed, weird science fiction stuff, not much of a struggle for Happy Gilmore. Doesn't feel like Happy Gilmore's character. And now, Shooter McGavin's character. One of the best rivals in comedy history, right? Shooter McGavin, Happy Gilmore, and they completely destroy that feud like halfway into the movie. And it's just such a bummer, because this is like the comeback we've been waiting for so long. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen when Shooter McGavin, you know, meets back up with Happy Gilmore? Are they going to like go back on the golf course and have it out and trade barbs, and they're going to fight? Now, again, there is a scene that is kind of satisfying to watch where there is like a fight that breaks out, and it's actually really funny to watch because of all the references and cameos and stuff like that. But again, like, I just feel like they could have milked this feud between Shooter and Happy Gilmore so much more, and instead they destroyed it. Again, you'll see when you watch the movie what I'm talking about, but they just completely let it go, and they turned it to be about, you know, Happy Gilmore being against these enemy golfers, right? And because there's this this new golf manager guy who's trying to like, you know, revamp and revitalize golf for like the 21st century and make it like, you know, cool for the cool kids, you know, and he's like trying to make it all like extreme, you know, like extreme sports. Now there's someone trying to make golf like an extreme sport like thing. And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of stupid and weird. And they have like a gimmick at the end where they kind of try to replicate the ending of Happy Gilmore, where he has like the difficult shot to make. And I don't know, it just felt kind of stupid and contrived. But overall, the movie, like it works as like a basic comedy. Like, if you show this to most general audiences, they'll probably enjoy it. I just don't think, if you're like a fan of Happy Gilmore, like if this is one of these movies that you've always loved and you've kind of held close to your heart, you're probably going to have a lot of problems with it, just because it's not that faithful to the original movie. It just felt like there's just too much. It's overstuffed with cameos. It's not that faithful to the original. They put in all this superfluous stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. There's weird characters that do things that are strange. Like Steve Buscemi has a character, and I'm legit baffled by everything he's doing on screen. Like, it's almost like they just told him, like, hey, just do whatever. Like, just do silly stuff. You know, like they don't even give him part of the script. They're just like, hey, just stand there and do weird stuff. You know, and he's like, okay, you know. That's what it felt like, and it just felt like him getting a bunch of his friends back, which I know Adam Sandler does that. He gets a lot of his friends to participate in his movies, and it's like a whole, you know, affair. And sometimes it could be funny, and sometimes it's just like, why is this here? It's just too much. And it's a 2-hour movie, a 2-hour comedy. I'm sorry, but we do not need a 2-hour comedy. An hour and 45 minutes is the most I'll give you. The best I can do is an hour and 45, okay? Just like on Pawn Stars. An hour and 30 is the norm. Hour 45 is the max, okay? You can't exceed that. And then you start to overstay your welcome. And it's because of all these cameos, all these references. And again, they do try to make a lot of references to the original, which, you know, props to them. Clearly, you know, Adam Sandler was trying to make a movie for the fans. He was trying to do a lot of callbacks, which I appreciate. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, the movie has to stand on its own. You can't just make a movie full of like callbacks and stuff from the original and then just have it stand that way, and then just do a bunch of weird stuff in the movie. You have to evolve the story. You have to tell a new story that, you know, obviously takes place after the first. And you don't need a bunch of like flashback scenes where we see stuff that happened in the first movie. Like if we're watching the second movie, obviously we know what happened in the first movie, and a lot of that stuff is classic. We don't need a flashback scene to remind us, oh right, this. if we're smart enough to figure it out on our own, Adam Sandler, okay? Like, and I know it was some other person who directed the movie, but like obviously Adam Sandler was producing this. It's not, it's obviously he's kind of calling most of the shots. The director's probably just there to like, shoot the camera or whatever. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the movie. A lot of nitpicks and, gripes with this and that. But overall, it was funny. I enjoyed a lot of the jokes. I mean, it could be worse. It could just not be funny at all. I guess I would give this 3 skulls out of 5. Like, it's pretty good. Like, it's not great. It's not excellent. It's pretty good. It's a pretty decent comedy. Like, it'll make you laugh. And then that's, I guess, the most important thing. So I begrudgingly give it a passing grade because it did entertain me. But, how long is this going to entertain me for? Am I going to be watching it over and over again? Is this another classic like the original? No, it's not. This movie is like McDonald's. It's highly, digestible for a night, and then I'm done with it. That's basically what I feel about this movie. So Happy Gilmore 2. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please hit the like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.